Hi everyone, this is Daniela Mini at publicponder.com. This spring I read a book that blew me away. It's titled Being Wrong, Adventures in the Margin of Error by author and journalist Kathryn Schulz. And I just took so many notes and so furiously wrote down ideas about the book that I decided to write a whole post about it. It transformed my thinking about what it means to be wrong, and I hope it transforms your thinking too and helps you reframe your mistakes in a way that is helpful. Thank you.
A must-read book that will change how you think about being wrong. 6 reasons why humans make mistakes and 2 reasons why erring makes us better humans. Being wrong reminds us that the most mysterious object in the whole universe is located right between our ears, encased in the 3D puzzle of bones we call the human skull. Yes, the brain. But what is specifically being wrong about? Well, in the author's words, quote about how we as a culture think about error and how we as individuals cope when our convictions collapse out from under us. End quote. Here then, dear ponder and explorer of the human brain, are the ideas in this book that rattled my thinking in some way. 6 reasons why we're prone to error. 1. The feeling of knowing is powerfully seductive. Quote, it fills us with the conviction of rightness, whether we're right or not. End quote. We just love the feeling of being right. We don't flatly say, I knew it, when an event proves us right. We exclaim the 3 words with glee, whether what we knew was joyful, as in, I knew you'd land the job, or tragic, as in, I knew he'd end up killing her. What's more, we're also great at noting we knew others were wrong all along. Yes, indeed. Quote, we positively excel at acknowledging other people's error. End quote. 2. It's hard to notice and predict our own wrongness. Quote, although we understand in the abstract that errors happen, our specific mistakes are just as unforeseeable to us as specific tornadoes or specific lightning strikes. End quote. Several factors conspire to blind us to our mistakes, whether past or future. For instance, we go through life as if what we see, hear, taste, or feel always captured the whole picture. And yet, quote, even the most convincing vision of reality can diverge from reality itself. End quote. That's what illusions, or failures of perception, as Schulz calls them, show us. The checker shadow illusion is one great example of how we can be fooled by our sense of vision, even when we know it's fooling us. Fact: square A and square B on this checkerboard are the very same color, literally the same shade of gray.
I know it's hard to believe, but just go on Google and type in Edward Adelson checkerboard illusion, print it out, and then cut out the little squares and put them side by side. You'll see they're the exact same color. So just as we feel all-knowing when it comes to our senses, we're also arrogant when it comes to our memories and convictions. I don't know about you, but I've had countless exchanges with loved ones that go something like this. With me saying, yes, I did, no, you didn't, or like this, I did not, you did too.
3. The feeling of being wrong is unpleasant. Nobody but you can choose to believe your own beliefs. That's part of why recognizing our error is such a strange experience. Accustomed to disagreeing with other people, we suddenly find ourselves at odds with ourselves. End quote. Yeah, shame and denial are often part of the being wrong experience. In extreme cases, we persist in our denial and never admit that we were wrong, at least to the world. This is obvious in relationships, where each side attributes all the blame to the other. And thus, we hide our mistakes and refuse to accept them, which only makes us prone to future errors. 4. We confuse our identities with our beliefs and don't seek to understand beliefs that don't match ours. Often, such beliefs are held in clusters associated with specific communities from which we derive our sense of identity and belonging. Quote, "It is hard, excruciatingly hard, to let go of the conviction that our own ideas, attitudes, and ways of living are the best ones." End quote. Most of us are supremely unmotivated to educate ourselves about beliefs with which we disagree. Additionally, far from making us reevaluate our beliefs, external opposition, especially opposition that we perceive as threatening or insulting, tends to make us dig in our heels even more. 5. Beliefs are easy to form, but mighty hard to discard. Humans, quote, "have the capacity to reach very big conclusions based on very little data," end quote. This capacity, known as inductive reasoning, is incredibly helpful. Think about it. As young children, it allows us to quickly generalize grammatical rules and to instantly recognize all manner of spoons as spoons after experiencing just a couple of them. There are, however, significant drawbacks linked to our wondrous reasoning skills. As Schulz warns, quote, "Since the whole point of inductive reasoning is to draw sweeping assumptions based on limited evidence, it is an outstanding machine for generating stereotypes." End quote. If your first 2 encounters with dogs involved getting bitten, you might sense all dogs as dangerous, right? Even worse, you don't even need to experience situations firsthand to reach big conclusions and adopt negative stereotypes. If your mom screams with fright when a dog comes close and tells you stories of how vicious they are, you might also be scared of them. And so, another unfortunate effect of inductive reasoning is this. Quote, "Although small amounts of evidence are sufficient to make us draw conclusions, they are seldom sufficient to make us revise them." End quote. We hold on to our convictions for dear life and don't listen to, and much less seek out, counter evidence. When we do acknowledge counter evidence, we simply label it as an exception that proves the rule. Unless, of course, the exception proves our belief, in which case we posit it as evidence for it. 6. Being wrong is frowned upon. Being wrong, quote, "appears to be a key means by which kids learn, and one associated as much as anything else with absorption, excitement, novelty, and fun." End quote. Oh, to be young. Inevitably, though, we grow up and the window of time where making mistakes was not only okay but also celebrated closes forever. For grown-ups, being wrong can damage or even destroy reputations and careers. Deservedly or not, those who would profit from our downfall will exaggerate our wrongness. Then, of course, there's the perverse pleasure of witnessing the fall of someone we dislike or envy. We humans are malevolent like that. No wonder small errors can turn into epic failures. Instead of admitting incipient mistakes to ourselves and the world, we rationalize or hide bad decisions until the mistakes pile up and turn into colossal failures. Now, on to the good news. Why wrongness makes us better humans. 1. Human wrongness is inseparable from comedy, art, and science. Quote, "Our capacity to err is inseparable from our imagination." End quote. Comedy not only captures our wrongness, but also exaggerates it and imagines every possible way we could be wrong. That's why movie bloopers are funny and why comedy often looks like movie bloopers. Is art an accurate reflection of reality? Of course not. Cave painters did not replicate mammoths precisely. And it's not because the artists were bad. Picasso's depictions of humans are all wrong. As for science, progress is impossible without getting things wrong. When it comes to the frontier of science, which is where discoveries and progress happen, quote, the day you stop making mistakes is the day you can be pretty sure you are no longer in the frontier, end quote, asserts Neil deGrasse Tyson in his masterclass, Scientific Thinking and Communication. We enjoy art and do science because it lets us be wrong and play with our imagination. Being right all the time would be boring and limiting. Quote, being right might be gratifying, but in the end, it is static, a mere statement. Being wrong is hard and humbling, and sometimes even dangerous, but in the end, it is a journey and a story, end quote. And the second reason why being wrong makes us better humans? Well, being wrong makes us humble and more empathetic. Quote, our mistakes, when we face up to them, show us both the world and the self from previously unseen angles, and remind us to care about perspectives other than our own. End quote.
Sure, being wrong is embarrassing, unpleasant, and costly. And yet, it's one of those experiences that grounds us. A lot of us become less arrogant as we get older, don't we? I suspect it's because we've been wrong enough times to accept and know we're not as smart as we thought. And isn't it peculiar how our mistakes make us relatable and help us relate? I don't know about you, but I love to talk to people who've messed up in similar ways as me. For instance, when I get together with other parents of grown special needs children, for instance, it's immensely comforting and yes, fun to share stories of how incredibly wrong we were about disability and parenting. When you meet people or read about their experiences, aren't you instantly turned off by those who seem to have gotten it all right? People who put themselves down and own their wrongness are relatable because we find them, well, human.
And here's the final thought I leave you with, the need to cultivate doubt. Quote, doubt is the act of challenging our beliefs. End quote. Surely there are mistakes we must always seek to avoid, and those that cannot be forgiven without accountability. Having the wrong tooth extracted or the wrong leg amputated comes to mind. So do airplane design flaws leading to plane crashes and the deaths of hundreds of souls, for instance. Then there are those mistakes stemming from our reliance on our inaccurate memories and perceptions, or from rigid convictions that blind us to any counter evidence. Whatever the nature of our errors, one thing's for certain: we will never be able to eliminate them. We are, and always will be, wrong about things. It behooves us then to learn from and own our mistakes while cultivating a healthy measure of doubt. As Schulz notes, quote, remembering to attend to counter evidence isn't difficult. It is simply a habit of mind. End quote.